I mean, these are clearly. I just read you all the lies, and we showed you the evidence. So the real question is, how can a police department, how can a chief of police sleep at night knowing that his officers are committing perjury, tampering with evidence, tampering with witnesses, abusing children, taking away people's freedom? How do you expect your community, how do you expect us to trust the police when we can clearly identify an individual who's been with the police department for 20 years? You know, I'll ask a better question. How long has Robert Drum been lying? How many people has he put in jail based on his little gang of officers that are willing to turn off their body cams, to tamper with witnesses, to tamper with evidence, to conceal evidence, destroy evidence? How many times has he done it before to be so comfortable that they think they've perfected this process? They think they perfected this process, okay? And they think that the Commonwealth attorney, Amy Ashworth, is going to come in and save the day. She's going to seal off all the body cams. She's going to finish the job. I mean, we see these statements made by police like getting our ducks in a row before we pull the trigger.
Every other body cam, I have investigator Chad Mason and Robert Drum talk about getting their ducks in a row.
Why would an investigator be telling a witness we have to get our ducks in a row before we pull the trigger while he's lying on sworn affidavits?
Make sure your camera is off for all of it. We got to get our ducks in a row. What are you doing here?
I mean, your job as a investigator, as a police officer, when you're talking to a witness, your job is to extract information. Okay? But to manipulate the information that's incoming, to hear one thing and to write something else down, that's beyond corruption. That's criminal.
Now,
that's why we're here at the Department of Justice. Okay? We're asking the DOJ because clearly Peter Newsham can't do his job. Clearly Amy Ashworth can't do her job. Clearly Glenn Hill cannot do his job. So we're asking the federal government that this is absolute police misconduct. It's beyond police misconduct. Okay? And it seems like it's not a one-time thing. This seems like a systemic thing. It seems like they've perfected this lying process down so good that they've got the Commonwealth attorney involved in their process.
Anytime you have police misconduct,
I mean, if you talk about it,
the battery is running out.
Trespass.
Yeah, if you talk about it, they're going to issue you a trespass and trespass you off the property. On that note, I want to talk about what's going on with Sheriff Glenn Hill and my trespass and my arrest and my trial with Sheriff Glenn Hill before we end this podcast. Now, what's really disturbing is that the sheriff lawyer reached out to my lawyer. Sharon Pandak is the lawyer for Sheriff Glenn Hill, and she tells my lawyer Blake that we want you to tell your client to remove the previous podcast where he is talking about the Judge Jeanette Irby, and we want him to remove that podcast and advise him not to talk about the sheriff. Well, I'll tell you, I find it interesting that you're reaching into my lawyer to talk to me. You can talk to me directly, ma'am. Well, now I know that you are watching my podcast, and I ask you to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Apparently, you're watching the podcast, the jail is watching the podcast. The Commonwealth attorney, she says, the Commonwealth attorney reached out to Judge Jeanette Irby and advised her and told her that in my previous podcast, I talk about her and her inappropriate relationship with the sheriff. Well, ma'am, how could I not come to the conclusion that you're fucking the sheriff? Allegedly. I mean, they want to say, being a paralegal, I guess, it's beautiful when you got to throw in these terms. Apparently, allegedly, the key word is
alleged.
Is alleged. How could you not want me to reach a conclusion that you're allegedly fucking the sheriff when your conduct behind the bench is very questionable? I mean, you're ruling against the evidence. It's black and white. I've got a video of the situation where I'm standing on public property recording a video. The sheriff gets on the stand and he flat out lie about the whole entire situation. His deputies get on the stand and flat out lie about the whole entire situation. I mean, this is a situation where it's on video. It's literally on video. And your deputy and the sheriff himself gets on the stand and they're lying right in front of you. As a matter of fact, my lawyer did an amazing job impeaching the credibility of the sheriff. He takes the recording from General District Court, what the sheriff said in General District Court, and plays the recording for the sheriff after the deposition of the sheriff. And the sheriff are saying two different things. He says one thing in General District Court, he says another thing in Circuit Court, where this lawyer is simply playing the audio of what the sheriff said, and the sheriff is flat out lying about the situation. The deputies that get on the stand are flat out lying about the situation. And the judge,
by the way,
Muhammad, Judge Jeanette Irby sees that this sheriff is flat out lying. She sees the video and she rules against the evidence. I mean, in one of the portions, there is a good faith argument. There's a Supreme case out of the Supreme Court, and in good faith, she's telling my lawyer, we're not going to tell the jury about the good faith argument, and she's cherry picking what the jury is going to hear on Wednesday. This coming Wednesday, I have a jury trial. She wants to cherry pick what the jury is going to hear. How is that appropriate? I'm supposed to be getting a jury trial, and you have a corrupt judge. She's a retired judge. I don't know where the fuck they got her from. She's a retired judge. The question is, why do I have a retired judge?
Why do you have a defective judge?
Why do I have a defective judge that's fucking the sheriff?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. How could you not want me to come to a conclusion where this judge is having an inappropriate relationship with the sheriff? Now, here's what I'm gonna tell you, and this is my message to Sharon Pandak. You're telling my lawyer to tell me, be careful because we might come after you with a lawsuit. Well, ma'am, I'm coming after you with a lawsuit. I'm coming after your sheriff, and I'm coming after Jeanette Irby with a civil lawsuit. And I cannot wait, because one of the foundation of a civil lawsuit is you have to have standing within the lawsuit. Now, I'm writing up my lawsuit, and I'm going to represent myself pro se. I'm a paralegal. I'm writing the lawsuit, and I'm moving forward. Now, the biggest problem is when you submit this lawsuit, you have to have standing with the court for this civil lawsuit to move forward. Now, guess what, Sharon Pandak? If you file a lawsuit, it's actually going to be better for me because I can. Because
she knows how that works. She's going to open the door for you.
Exactly, you're going to open the door for me because now I can counter, and I'm going to have that standing because my ultimate goal is to subpoena the sheriff's cell phone communication and Judge Jeanette Irby cell phone communication. I want to know if they're communicating and they're having an inappropriate relationship. And I'll promise you, in those communication, I'm going to find out that you're actually fucking the sheriff. Allegedly. And wait until this comes out to the community.
Is it not true that when Sheriff Glenhill was on the stand, is it not true that she was answering for him?
I could not believe that my lawyer would ask, the Sheriff Glenhill would be on the stand in a deposition, and my lawyer would ask
Blake
him
Weiner is asking him a question.
Blake Weiner is asking him a question, and the Judge Jeanette is answering for him. I mean, how to the point that Blake got so frustrated, he's like, Your Honor, I'm asking the sheriff. This is his deposition. I mean, lady,
that's crazy. The First Amendment is the First Amendment, whether you're in Virginia, whether you're in Arizona, California. The First Amendment is the First Amendment wherever you go. It should not be this hard, and your answer should not be changing, Sheriff, every time you take the stand.
I'll
Every
tell
time
you,
he takes a stand,
it's a different answer.
he's got a different answer for the First Amendment.
I mean, he tells.
First Amendment is the First Amendment. What we're doing here, that's the First Amendment. You have a right to come out and peacefully present your case, talk, do as you please within the law, okay? But in Glen Hill's part of the country, and Glen Hill, aka Saddam Hussein, whatever he wants to, Kim Jong-un,
I mean, Prince William County.
whatever he wants to call himself, the supreme leader of the land.
I mean, is this the part where I say, all hail Sheriff Glen Hill?
Apparently
All
that's what
hail.
he wants.
Is this the United States of Sheriff Glen Hill? Apparently, in Prince William County, according
He's
to
the
him,
supreme leader of the land.
I'm supposed to tell Sheriff Pendek, oh my God, you emailed my lawyer. All hail Sheriff. Fuck you and your sheriff. And I promise you, by the time I'm done with this sheriff, he's not gonna have a badge or a uniform. Hey, on Wednesday, I have a jury trial, and Judge Jeanette Irby, is rigging this game by cherry picking what the jury is gonna hear. Well, I'm gonna take the stand on Wednesday, and I'm gonna tell them I was standing there, and I was recording a video on public property, not disorderly. It's goddamn on video. The whole thing is on video. Now, here's the thing. Now, they cherry pick that, what the jury is going to hear. I don't know what they're going to do on Wednesday. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to appeal it. And I promise you, if I don't hold him accountable on Wednesday, I'm going to appeal it. And I'm going to take it to a higher court. And I'm filing those lawsuits. You can take that to the bank.
Let me just tell you one last thing. You know what I find
It's going to turn off, by the way.
You know what I find really interesting?
Yeah.
Is that they're forgetting why you're standing there. You're standing there because Amy Ashworth, the Commonwealth Attorney, who also happens to have a seat at the jail board of Prince William County Adult Detention Center, the jail, the torture center, okay, and Sheriff Glen Hill. These two individuals are sitting on the jail boards where 17 individuals lost their lives at the hands of correctional officers. Individuals are being tortured in America. Pretrial detainees are literally losing their lives, being carried out in body bags because of the corruption of Amy Ashworth and Sheriff Glen Hill. And you stood there to bring attention to the sheriff. Instead of coming out and saying, hey, what's the problem? Let's talk about it. Instead, they shut down public meetings. Public meetings are no longer public. If you're standing in front of the courthouse, which is public property, they arrest you. If you go into court to document the corruption, they trespass you.
You got trespass. You got trespass for what? For simply documenting what they're doing behind closed doors?
Because of this.
You're sitting in court.
A notebook.
You're sitting in court taking notes on the case. And they trespass you.
Why? Because Judge Carol Weimer probably has a inappropriate relationship with one of the
Judge Weimer is fucking the sheriff too. Oh my. Okay, here's the thing. Sheriff,
No, look, Judge Carol Weimer hired his best friend.
I know that he has an inappropriate relationship with the prosecutor, not the sheriff. Allegedly.
What is the prosecutor's?
Apparently, you gotta say allegedly.
Look,
well, allegedly, everybody's fucking each other.
Look, what do these prosecutors have on Judge Carol Weimer? On Judge Carol Weimer, that number one, he refuses to recuse himself, and number two, he rules without evidence.
Regardless of the evidence.
Without evidence, against the evidence, he rules based on favoritism. Friendship. Isn't that what
Jeanette Irby? Do you blame me? Here's the deal. Do you blame me for thinking that Jeanette Irby is fucking the sheriff? Lady, you're giving me every reason to think that you're fucking the sheriff. Allegedly. Now, my question is, are you fucking the sheriff behind the bench? After the court proceeding? Before the court proceeding? Behind?
I'm going to say I don't think the capability exists.
I don't think the guy has... how could you fuck Jeanette Irby if you don't have, if you don't have the tools. Now, on that note, we have a jury trial on Wednesday. We have a defective judge that's rigging this system where the jury is not going to hear this judge lied on the stand. But here's the deal. Sheriff Glenhill, I've got your audio and I've got your voice on the internet. Now you've got a giant machine, a giant apparatus. You've got deputies sealing off and closing and making sure audio doesn't get leaked out. How do you feel that your voice is on the internet? Now, I want to thank specifically the deputies, the sheriff deputies that are working with us behind closed doors, supplying us with audio recordings and video recordings so that this misconduct doesn't continue in our community.
And it reaches the right places.
And it reaches the right places at the Department of Justice. Sheriff Glenhill says, I have a full-blown investigation. He comes up to my brother and he tells him, I have a full-blown investigation into your brother. I'm going to get to the bottom of which sheriff deputy is working with him and supplying him with recordings. Well, Sheriff, good luck. It's not going to work. I've got your voice on the internet.
Then again, by the way, what you're talking about are public hearings. What are they so afraid of? What are they being so secretive about? These are public hearings.
Well,
you have a right to the Sixth Amendment to have a public trial. But I mean, your trial was in private.
My trial was in a private room with a defective
trials are in private.
Judge.
My hearing is going to probably be in private on the 27th.
Apparently, we're living in Prince William County, the United States of Sheriff Glenhill. We're supposed to, according to the lawyer of the sheriff, I'm supposed to have a picture of the sheriff in my living room, and every day I'm supposed to say, all hail Sheriff Glenhill.
The supreme leader of the land.
Supreme leader of the land, Prince William County. Not according to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is going to get to the bottom of it. I've got different individuals in the community that are filing complaints, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. On that note, I want to thank Muhammad for being on this podcast. I want to thank the rest of the family for being here. Thank you for being here. I want to specifically thank Missy, Stefana, Casey, Shelly, Farah, Shirley, and Bustos, and everybody that I forgot to mention their name. I want to thank specifically the witnesses that pretended to be Christine Al-Kuzai. We miss you, ma'am. You've done a lot for this case. Thank you for gathering all the witnesses on the internet and having them talk. I mean, if we didn't have them talk, we wouldn't have cracked this case and got to the bottom that the Commonwealth attorney is using a bunch of crackheads to...
Let's wrap it up.
A bunch of crackheads that say, we were not there, we didn't see anything, and sitting there lying about Mustafa. On that note, thank you for being here.
We're going to thank the officers who are here.
We want to thank the officers that's at the gate for the Department of Justice. We want to thank the police officer that came out here. We want to thank their supervisor for accommodating us here. And on that note, thank you for joining this podcast. This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Judge Carol Weimer under the microscope.
You didn't thank Sharon Pendek.
Specifically, thank Sharon Pendek, ma'am. I'm coming after your sheriff with a lawsuit, whether you like it or not, and I'll see you in court.